And there's some more in the article about how they did test some of them, and some they just surveyed. And I don't know how they bribed them to take this survey, but to say how much drugs have you ingested in the last so much time. But again, they probably
start off their question with how much have you taken, how much pot have you smoked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he gets you to incriminate yourself.
Yes, for the most part, they usually have next to nothing evidence-wise against the person, unless that person cooperates and in the investigation against themselves. So, leave them with nothing.
Right.
And there's nothing. You don't have to be in contempt of cop to do it. You can just tell the guy, hey, my personal liberties are very dear to me, and my lawyer would kill me if I submitted to anything.
Right.
My lawyer's a constitutional law expert.
Use your Miranda rights. Don't talk. Don't incriminate yourself. Don't pee in a cup if you don't have to.
That's right.
That's great advice. Well, thanks for that, Greg. Now, let's try to squeeze in a couple more quick items here. There's this was kind of funny one at the University of Chicago. A student named Steve Saltarelli starts a group called Men in Power, believing that the group will bring awareness to men's issues. And he came under a lot of criticism by starting a men's group because the women and minorities think, hey, don't men already, or especially white men, I guess, but it's not a white man's group. It's just a men's group.
No, it's not. That reminds us of some other group that wears hoods.
Yeah, right. So he's just saying, all right, what, men? If you read further in the article, they say, actually this recession has affected men a lot worse than women. Men's unemployment is 10%, or women's is 7.5%. So he's saying, what are we going to do? You gotta rethink. You gotta be. He's trying to just have a support group for men. He comes under all this criticism for starting a group, and I just find it funny, these gender politics that go on in the universities, and trying to shout down a group like that's really just an advocate for a problem. We have a problem in the recession, and men are. It's harder to get employed coming out of college than it was before, so it seems like a legitimate group. What do you think about the gender politics and these reactions in general? It seems like there can be a lot of double standards in play here.
Certainly. My first thought is that, at church they have men's groups there, so that should get you off on the right foot at least. Anybody that asks, I would just tell them, yeah, it's an offshoot of my men's group at church. But that should get the flack off of your back. But still, I'm reminded of the KKK when you're talking about just a men's group. So I would certainly, if I was him, I would certainly be recruiting black guys to be in my group. Yeah.
There's always that stigma of starting any group. You got to try to make it inclusive. Because the people are so sensitive about clubs that you start, and especially if it's going to be recognized by the university, then you've got to be follow all the university's political correctness guidelines.
Printed and unprinted, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that was just kind of a funny one. Actually, no freedoms have been, inhibited by force in that case, but just the public kind of outcry was kind of funny that the article showed. I want to do a quick check-in on same-sex marriage. The California Supreme Court upheld the Prop 8 result, which was 52% of people disagreed with gay marriage as it was proposed to be legalized with Prop 8 last year. Essentially, the ruling says, they did the initiative process right. I think the challenge was something that the initiative itself was unconstitutional somehow under some equal protection clause or something, and the Supreme Court said no, it was a valid proposition, and that was the outcome, so they upheld the result. when there was huge protests in the street in San Francisco, and they are the gay advocates, gay marriage advocates are regrouping, and they're going to put something on the ballot, I believe, in this year, which is kind of a domestic partnership type initiative. And it's funny that the libertarian gays are actually against that, because they think it could invalidate all, and we talked about this last week, invalidate all the marriages in California and take away the tax deduction. I don't know how that's a tough debate. It's still haven't really unpacked that one yet, but it's going to emerge, I think, over the next few months. You're more up that way. The community there, I mean, there was a lot of outrage at the after Prop 8. Now that the ruling's been upheld, there was more and more protests. Where do you think it's going, as far as you know, the whole movement toward gay marriage in California?
I think it's going to become valid as a civil union, but the decision at the Supreme Court level, California Supreme Court level, that's likely to be challenged again and again. And I don't foresee there being a marriage deduction loss of any sort. That's just not going to happen. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, it didn't happen in any of the other states, as far as I could look into it. In the 5 states where it is legal, I think the heterosexual marriages didn't lose their tax deduction, and although I'm not entirely sure that all the gay marriages are entitled to the exact same deductions and privileges as a hetero marriage, but at least it's legally recognized, and there are benefits that gay spouses can get and are entitled to, by having marriage defined, or recognized by the state.
Yeah, I'd like to see a case come about where there was a challenge just based on the chromosomal level. Let's say there were 2 men that got married, but one of them became a woman after the fact with a surgery, and take that to the Supreme Court and see what they can do towards picking apart the definitions of man versus a woman. And then at that point, you'll start to see how futile the differentiation is.
Yeah, maybe that would, cases like that could lead to eventually the state not linking benefits to marriage. In other words, kind of getting the state out of recognizing marriages entirely, and it's kind of a point we were making last week.
Yeah, do you think the state's really going to go to the level of examining the chromosomes of each individual union to make sure that one is XY and one is XX?
Right. You got a lot of issues there. You have the transgender types, and ones that have had the changes made, and ones that are taking hormones. And you got not just 2 sexes. There's the in betweens.
Yeah, then you've got people that are XXY.
Yeah. Right. There's the little bit. I know the extra Y chromosome problem in supposedly violent men. I've heard of that one, but you're talking about the other one, the extra X chromosome.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's another manifestation. So yeah, how do you get into the whole definitions of sex and partnership? I think when it comes down to it, just all biology aside, if people decide to enter into a domestic partnership, there should be some requirements to just such that you're avoiding the sham marriage in order to get some kind of legal advantage, citizenship, whatever it might be.
And yet, how many marriages that are just regular man and a woman? How many of those are sham marriages?
Right. Yeah, a lot of them. A lot of cultures support marriages just for political alliances. I mean, monarchies, etc. I mean, why is that any different than marrying to get citizenship or something like that? There's a long history of sham marriages.
Yeah, I mean, and at that person have to be in love with the other person? No. How much do they know about the other person?